Thank you.
So much insurance.
We'll begin if you don't mind. We opened the regular session of the October 7th Board of Selectmen's meeting at 6 o'clock and then went into executive session to discuss several real estate matters that related to litigation of various sorts. We moved out of executive session at about 7 o'clock, and now we'd like to reopen the regular session of the meeting. Our first act is the Pledge of Allegiance, so if we could all stand.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is there anyone here for a weekly briefing? Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, Paula Champagne, Health Director. I just wanted to make a public announcement for our 2013 Public Flu Clinic, which will be 2 weeks from today. It will be held on Monday, October 21st, from 2 to 6 p.m. at the Community Center. We are again operating this flu clinic as part of our emergency management planning, and the health department, in conjunction with the emergency management department, will be conducting a full drill utilizing incident command and practicing several items in our preparedness plan. So those of you who have participated in previous years, you know that it's an exciting afternoon, and we again welcome you all to participate, and particularly selectmen have offered shifts of service on that day, so we look forward to that. Our flu clinic is open to all residents and anyone who works in the community of Harwich. We do send an invitation to all of our members of the Chamber of Commerce and businesses in town. Our flu clinic is from 2 to 6 later in the day, purposely scheduled that late so that we do extend an invitation to all members of our working community to participate. The flu clinic is, I'm pleased to note that we do accept insurances, and more companies are entering into a contract with the Department of Public Health. We now accept about 11 different insurances as well as Medicare, and I have gone and gotten certified to allow the town to collect some of that insurance. So we are establishing a revolving fund that helps us to pay for vaccine purchase and nurses to offset some of the expenses. But again, the particulars, from 2 to 6 on Monday, October 21st at the Community Center. It is a pre-registration. We have an electronic pre-registration, and the website hosting that is www.capecodmrc.com. You go to that website and choose the clinic either between 2 and 4 and 4 and 6, and you'll be given an assigned space. If you do not have access to a computer, please remember that we have public computers at the library and public computers at the Council on Aging. And if you still find the wonders of computer to be a little bit challenging, we do have volunteers at the Council on Aging that help you go walk through this this registration. It is just a little bit cumbersome because it's asking you for your insurance information, etc. So we do offer services over at Council on Aging to help you sign up for that program. If you're not covered by insurance, there's a very low-cost $5 fee. We keep that fee exceptionally low in order to meet some of our public health criteria. We are here to service the public, and infectious disease prevention is our goal. So we hope to see you all there on the 21st for our annual clinic. Thank you.
Peter?
Could I just ask, Paul, I know you said that pre-registration is obviously either required or recommended. Will you take any walk-ins if you had the space available?
Yes, we do. And thank you. I did not mention there is no restriction this year on who can have the vaccine. We have an unlimited supply, and our VNA contract will augment our supply if we run out of our state-supplied doses. So we will be accepting walk-ins. Of course, we prefer pre-registration. It takes a few minutes to fill out the form if you're able, but we will have walk-ins.
Thanks.
Paula, could you please just repeat the website
The website is www.capecodmrc.com. It's the Cape Cod Medical Reserve
I
Corps.
just wanted everybody to get another shot at it. So,
It's
Okay,
running
June
across
18th.
as we speak, the wonders of technology. Thank you, Jamie.
yes,
And Paula and I are a tag team. I have to wait for her to announce it so that I can announce that because it is set up as an emergency management drill, the community center then has to be closed in that morning so that we can operate as a drill because we cannot set up the night before because it is a time drill. So the community center on that morning is closed so that we may set up for the flu clinic. But it does reopen, obviously, for the flu clinic, and then again that evening we go right back to our regular operations. So after 6:30 p.m. we're back up and operational. Thank you.
thank you. Anyone else for weekly briefing? If not, anyone for public comments? Announcements? Ed?
Mr. Chair, as we all know, if anybody who tried to drive around town yesterday, we had the, I think it was the 5th annual or 4th annual Harwich Cranberry Harvest Half Marathon. It's turned into quite an event. I believe this year they had just about 1,000 runners driving around town on Saturday. You could see most of the accommodations had full parking lots, as did most of the restaurants for folks who showed up the day before for the race. The race also offers an opportunity for local organizations to raise some money by providing volunteers to the race organization to man the race during its run. And this year, the major beneficiaries will be a number of different student groups at the high school, the Pleasant Bay Boating Group, and because one of the coaches is a good friend of the race organizer, the Mashpee High School field hockey team. But in doing so, we had getting volunteers together. One of the organizations that had traditionally done provided volunteers wasn't able to this year, and so the last week it was sort of a scramble to come up with volunteers to help out. The high school stepped up, and a number of students, and quite a number more students volunteered, which was good to see our young people coming forward. But in the closing hours, we were still a little bit close, and I want to thank a group of people that I asked personally to help, Mr. Ballantyne being one of those, and Carolyn Carey, arriving back from Providence at 12, called up and volunteered to man a couple posts on the race course. But there are a number of other folks, and it's coming together for these sorts of events are what I think helps support our economy here on the Cape, and also in this case will provide funding for a number of the student organizations at our high school.
Thank you, Ed. Anyone else? If not, we'll move on to the consent agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would move the following consent agenda items. A, approved minutes of September 16th, 2013 regular session, September 23rd, 2013 executive session, and September 23rd, 2013 regular session. B, vote to accept a letter of resignation from Jerry Loftus from the Citizens Advisory Committee on Wastewater and town representative to the Barnstable County Home Consortium effective October 1st, 2013, and from the Housing Committee and Brooks Academy Museum Commission effective January 1st, 2014. And C, vote to sign the temporary license agreement with NSTAR and Verizon that will allow placement of poles at 205, 209, and 213 Queen Anne Road until an easement can be approved at the next town meeting.
Second.
Any discussion?
Only in that we need to compliment Jerry Loftus. He was maybe the hardest working volunteer we've seen in town for years, and was very passionate about housing, among other things. Kept after us, and discussions and arguments, but he was always passionate for the cause, and so we hope for him the best.
Certainly. Peter?
And Mr. Chairman, I go one step further, and because of Jerry's involvement in all these different committees and commissions and whatnot, I would suggest that the board send him a letter of thanks and appreciation for his service to the town, along with accepting his resignation. He will be missed.
Yes, he will.
It's just too bad he was a Yankee fan. But,
Oh, no, that.
Oh, it
that
just
made
changes
him good.
everything.
That made him good.
Well, to paraphrase somebody that once, Jerry was always very strong and passionate in his support of things, and I remember another volunteer who also was that way, and a fellow one sort of complained about his passion, and to paraphrase him, he said, what a pain in the neck he was. And I looked at him and I said, yeah, but he's our pain in the neck. And Jerry, no matter whether he rubbed you right or rubbed you wrong, the best efforts and the best for the town was always his interest.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I think also that he was probably one of our, time and again, one of our best prepared and best researched volunteers we had on any committee. He knew the chapter and verse of every article that was passed, how it was voted, and he could tell you the history of stuff, and he was always very well prepared.
All right, now we can move on to our public hearings and presentations. Oh, I'm sorry, I thought. Oh, we have a motion, don't we? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Now we can move to the public hearing and presentations. The first annual meeting is from the Planning Board. Welcome, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jim Atkinson, and I am the newly elected chairman of the Planning Board.
Congratulations.
I am here tonight to give you a brief overview of the activities of the Planning Board over the past year. During this period, 34 applications were submitted to the Planning Board, including 6 approval not required plans, 4 subdivision plans, 13 site plans, 4 special permit requests, 2 covenant release requests, 1 road betterment, 2 name changes for roads, and 2 requests for informal reviews. Major items in front of the Planning Board over the past year included the rezoning of the East Harwich Commercial District, modification of the Cove Road Open Space Subdivision, bylaw revisions for accessory apartments and panhandle lots, a 7-lot subdivision in South Harwich, commercial and restaurant special permits in Harwichport, and the review of a proposed redevelopment of Cumberland Farms in Harwichport. Over the coming year, the Planning Board is expecting to both continue its regulatory approval process and make significant progress in its efforts to develop proposed zoning for the East Harwich commercial area. In this effort, the Planning Board will be following the direction given by the Board of Selectmen and intends to develop a zoning bylaw that will be acceptable to the majority of the residents of the town of Harwich. Our goal is to have a proposed bylaw prepared for public hearing by the fall of 2014, next year, with action at the next available town meeting. We will also, as requested, look into the consequences of the new law allowing medical marijuana dispensaries and determine whether changes to the bylaws of the town of Harwich will be either necessary or desirable to address this development. Additionally, efforts will include the consideration of the impacts of the efforts in wastewater management planning and the future development of the town. Also to be considered will be the concentration of villages along the Route 28 corridor. It is our feeling that we currently have a strong and competent board that reflects the existing community and hope to have a very productive year. Please let me know if you have any questions or comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions?
Good report.
No? Oh, I'm sorry. Brooke?
Yes.
Brooke Williams, West Harwich. Thank you to the chair's presentation. I guess I had like 3 questions. The first one is related to East Harwich. You mentioned developing some scenarios there and continuing the work with the selectmen. And my question is, there were, at one point in the East Harwich process, there were comments that were solicited from residents in regard to East Harwich, and a number of people responded. Mr. Sampson, the former chair of wastewater, had some comments. The Civic Association, Harwich Civic Association, had comments, and there were another number of other groups. Those were on a website from the planning department, planning board, and those have been removed. And I guess my question is, why were those removed? And given the ongoing work, wouldn't it be good to have that information as part of the process? Thank you.
Okay. I can't answer the question of why they were removed, but what I can answer is that the planning board, through its subcommittee on East Harwich, is presently taking a look at the history of what has gone on. All the reports that have been developed, all the studies that have been developed. Now, we're doing this in order to get a firm background on what is available in information, what some of the issues that have been discussed have been. As you and the Board of Selectmen have directed, you want us to take a fresh look at this, which we are. In taking a fresh look at this, we will have an extensive public input process at various stages of development of the proposed planning ordinance. We do want to invite the public in again once we sort of get our heads together with regard what direction we think we'll be going, what some of the issues we think we need to decide will be. And we will clearly invite the public into this process at least 3 stages in this process prior to a public hearing.
Thank you.
Just had another quick question. You mentioned the villages, and also specifically the villages on Route 28, but obviously there are other villages as well. There's North Harwich, Pleasant Lake, where some road widening, resurfacing is being developed. What efforts will be made to outreach and look at the challenges in some of the villages? And I think a key one in all the villages is really traffic safety. How do you envision that?
Well, the reason I sort of mentioned the villages along Route 28 is that we have to work with the Cape Cod Commission with regard to their sort of overall development plan. And in reviewing some of the draft work that has been done, we had some questions about their designations of the village areas along Route 28. I think we also have some questions about whether or not the existing zoning along Route 28 is something that should continue. And that's something that we just want to look into and make some, sort of educated guesses on. Now, in the process of taking a look at East Harwich, clearly one of the things that we're going to have to do is take a look at, what some of the impacts of any proposed changes in East Harwich are going to be on the rest of the entire town of Harwich and the other villages. Now, as you may have read in the Chronicle this week, last week there was a meeting to deal specifically with the issue of Harwich Center. And, a committee that, is starting to discuss the issues of trying to revitalize Harwich Center. At the present time, we don't have any definite plans to address some of the other issues that you were talking about, but the planning board certainly could be a forum for those types of discussions should there be a desire to do that.
Thank you.
Just have last one, which is regarding housing. Obviously, there's the lawsuit currently on Victory Village. And then also there's the hedge proposal in West Harwich involving demolishing a historic house. What efforts do you foresee in the next year to look at some of the challenges and opportunities for the town in regard to housing in the villages, and where is that status of that? Thank you.
I think the issue of housing throughout the entire town is really part of an effort that we need to start taking a look at with regard to revisiting the entire comprehensive plan for the town of Harwich. And housing, of course, is a major element of the comprehensive plan for the town. This year, over the foreseeable future in the coming year, I think the board is going to be very much involved with the East Harwich issue and the other issues that I mentioned. We don't want to forget the issue of, sort of revisiting the comprehensive plan, and especially with regard to the role of housing within the comprehensive plan. But that is a little bit further down our list of priorities at this time.
Thank you. Yeah.
Any other questions?
No, just thank you very much. Very nice report, good answers.
Thank you very much.
We now move to the Board of Health. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Dr. Stanley Kokot. I am chairman of the 5-member Board of Health. My co-chair is Mrs. Mary Jane Watson. Included are Dr. Robert Inslee, Mrs. Pamela Howell, and Mr. Frank Boyle. Our attendance is exemplary, reflecting the quality and dedication of our board members. We have had no vacancies since 2011. We wish to express our gratitude for the leadership of our tireless, omniscient, and ubiquitous Paula Champagne. Our two health directors, or health inspectors, I should say, Mrs. Amy Morris and Megan Tierney, as well as our valued secretaries, Mrs. Carol Genatasio and Mrs. Patricia Sampson. As far as the future is concerned, among other things, the Board of Health is now studying the regulations on the content and application of fertilizers. We are involved in the wastewater planning, and we are now starting to look at what I call the monstrosity of the marijuana problem. I feel that we should also express our thanks to Mrs. Linda Sabula, who has deeply involved herself in matters of the Board of Health as liaison to the Board of Selectmen. Thank you. If there are any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Questions, anyone? No, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We now move to the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Conservation Commission.
Oh, Conservation, I skipped, sorry. Conservation Commission? I'm sorry.
I'm Walter Diggs, the new chairman of the Conservation Commission. We're very fortunate to have Amy Usowski as our conservation agent. I want to compliment the work she's done since she's joined us this past year. Permit applications are up about 25% from this time last year. We're seeing more large-scale projects than we have in recent years. The Conservation Commission has drafted changes to the Harwich Wetlands Protection Bylaw in preparation for the May 2014 town meeting. We're in the process of drafting town-wide beach management regulations dealing with sand nourishment, cleaning, and maintenance. Turns out that Harwich may be leading the country in the production of codium in the water, and we're getting some interesting discussions with other communities as what can be done with the codium on the Nantucket Sound beaches in particular. We've installed a new trailhead parking area off the Great Western Road, which is dedicated this afternoon, with the help of the Barnstable County Land Management Grant. The Highway Department AmeriCorps Cape Cod and town volunteers. The goal of the Conservation Commission is to monitor and honor both the state of Massachusetts and Harwich bylaws relating to open spaces and wetlands. Some of the meetings have become educational in terms of shellfish, the availability of shellfish in the water, and how we dealing with codium. We've lost 2 new members who were at the end of their terms in June. Past several months, we've been going with the minimum quorum of 4 people, and that we encountered some very difficult voting on a couple of difficult issues. The past few months have been a bit challenging with only the 5 board members. We have 1 board member whose spouse is requiring a lot of attention, and she's unable to attend the next several months, and with a large workload. A new member, Michael Dempsey, has been appointed, so we're looking forward to his joining our commission. Let me stop with that and see if there are any questions.
Any questions? Thank you very much. Now the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Good evening. Gary Currow from the Zoning Board of Appeals. We're here to represent fiscal year 2013. Currently, we have 6 members, 5 regular members, 1 alternate. Our newest addition is Franco Previd, and he is doing excellent. He's a great addition to the board. For last year, we heard 27 cases. Within those, we had 16 special permits. All 16 were granted. 4 variances, 3 were granted, 1 denied. Motion to withdraw without prejudice, we had 6. 2 represented and 1 granted as a variance and 1 denied as a variance. Last year, Mr. Burke was here and presented that we were working on a policy manual. I'm glad to say that we have instituted that. We are working from that. We also have a new application process that we did. And Dave Ryer was the main driving force behind our manual. So he did an excellent job and really was the lead in that. Other than that, if you have any questions?
Any questions? Larry?
Just one, and I probably should have looked, but is the policy manual and application process on the website?
That's a good question, Mr. Burke. Do you know? It is.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
And the basic committee is 5 members, and you're allowed to have 4 alternates, as I...
We do, and basically the biggest issue we're having right now is membership. We could really use at least 2 more members. Mr. Campbell is our only alternate, and he typically goes down to Florida for the winter. The last meeting we had, we were hearing a 40B, and Mr. Campbell may not be here for that time, so we had Dean Henderson sit in via the phone. So that worked out, but I mean, 2 more members would really be helpful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
I think they're talking to you.
Yeah, they are.
The next presentation is about the Cape Light Compact.
Good evening. Thank you for having me this evening. My name is Maggie Downey. I'm the Assistant County Administrator and the Administrator of the Cape Light Compact, and I'm here to give you an update on the Cape Light Compact. I would also like to acknowledge your representative, Barry Worth. Barry and I, actually, we've been working together almost 17 years now, so it's been a long time. And he's a great representative, and he represents your town well. And we're not working. Why aren't we moving?
You did.
Oh, we did. Oh, I got a little too. So I thought I would start tonight just for your audience now that the meetings are televised, just to give some background on the Cape Light Compact. I know that you all know this, but I thought it would be nice to update the audience. The Cape Light Compact represents all 15 towns on the county. on the Cape, the 6 towns on the Vineyard, as well as the 2 counties. So it is a 23-member board. Each of the representatives are appointed by either their town selectmen, council, or county commissioners. The Cape Light Compact was formed as a result of the 1997 Massachusetts Restructuring Act, which authorized towns and cities in Massachusetts to aggregate consumers for the purchase of electricity and to administer the ratepayer energy efficiency program. The towns on the Cape joined. We had spring and fall town meetings throughout 1998, and we executed an intergovernmental agreement in 1998 as well, and that is really our governing document. That's the only document that all 23 entities signed and negotiated with each of your town councils. So as I said, each of the CLC member towns and county have an appointed representative, and they are truly your representative. They serve at your pleasure. They should be reflecting, and Barry updates you regularly on issues relative to the compact's activities and energy, but they are your appointee, and they are authorized to represent your town and on a variety of energy-related issues. We have an executive committee. The 2013 executive committee members are Joyce Flynn. She is the chair. She's from Yarmouth. She serves also on the Yarmouth Energy Committee. The vice chair is Bob Schofield from the town of Bourne. Peter Kokolis is the treasurer from the town of Chatham. And Barry Worth is our long-suffering secretary from your town. And Peter Cabana is the member at large, and he represents Dukes County. The compact has 3 primary tasks in the energy field: power supply, energy efficiency, and consumer advocacy. And the next couple of slides are going to be a little snapshot on each of those. And I'd be happy to answer questions any way you'd like at the end, or if you have something on a slide you'd like me to address, please let me know. So power supply. The Cape Light Compact works with staff and consultants to negotiate the best terms and conditions of a power supply contract. This is as a municipal aggregator, we are an opt-out aggregation program. Consumers can choose not to participate in the Cape Light Compact's power supply program. There are competitive marketers out there, Dominion, Viridian, offering products that might suit the needs of a business or a residential customer. So the compact's about choice. You don't have to stay with the compact. Compact's price sometimes is below NSARS and sometimes it is above the distribution company. You can also choose to stay with the distribution company. Our goal is to make sure that customers are aware of what their options are. We issue an RFP. The RFP is a competitive bid process, and it is awarded to the supplier that offers us the best terms and conditions, because a power supply product isn't just about price. It's about any hidden fees or charges should you decide to leave. And that's the role Barry has served with me for many years negotiating these contracts. We also have a green power option. That's an opt-in product. Many consumers choose to pay more. You pay a premium for renewable energy. You green up the basic service, and you're purchasing renewable energy certificates. We have a 50% option and 100% option as well. Our crown jewel, as you may or may not know, is our energy efficiency program. The towns fought very hard to make sure that they could administer these programs, and we have been doing that successfully since 2002. The energy efficiency program has 3 program areas. We have we serve residential customers, low income, and commercial and industrial. So the DPU has approved CLC-specific enhancements to our energy efficiency program. So we offer some things down here that the other utilities in Massachusetts don't offer. I brought a copy of what we're offering in the 2013-2015 plan. So I'll leave this, I'll give it to you, and I'll leave it at the door. But basically, just to focus a little bit, our new residential energy audits are now focusing on LEDs. So LEDs are light-emitting diodes. It's a lighting technology. Many of you may be familiar with the swirly light bulbs, CFLs. Well, that technology has advanced. The new technology soon to replace CFLs will be light-emitting diodes. So now, as part of your energy audit, they'll be installing LEDs. We also have an enhanced incentive right now of up to $4,000 for a homeowner, residential customer, to insulate, to air seal, and to make other improvements in their home. So this is a great time to participate in the energy efficiency program. And you are eligible regardless of whether you heat with electricity, gas, or propane. We also offer an energy education program that works very closely with the Harwich Elementary School and Middle School, and I have a couple of pictures. On your right, this should be a familiar sight to you. The Cape Light Compact is working with the new Monomoy High School that comes under the Commercial and Industrial Program as a CNI project, so we are working very closely to make sure that that building is as energy efficient as possible. I just put this together. It's Fast Facts 2012. It's a look back at last year at what happened. So on the left, you'll see Harwich has 11,437 electric accounts. So in 2012, 842 customers or accounts were served, and they saved over $207,000 in electric costs for the variety of measures that were installed. In addition, we have provided last year over $147,000 in energy efficiency measures at the library, the high school, as well as streetlights. You can see on the right, that's a Bank Street shot of the LED demonstration project. That is coming to an end as we're getting ready and gearing up to do the installation of retrofitting all 1,159 streetlights in Harwich to LEDs, again, light emitting diodes. Many of you see the orange streetlights. It's almost like a night light. It gives an outward glow. Not only will the LEDs save a significant amount of money, almost $35,000 per year in lower energy cost, it's actually a better roadway lighting, and we've been working very closely. You have an excellent DPW director, Lincoln Hooper. We've been working very closely with him on the project. So that is scheduled to start the audit. So as part of that, you'll receive a GIS mapping of all of your streetlights, which can then be folded into other aspects of the town business. And then the retrofit will then begin in 2014. This slide I like to show, it talks about, this is a demonstration of how effective energy efficiency is in general, but specifically here on the Cape. If you see this graph, what it demonstrates is our electrical accounts have been growing approximately at 4% since 2002, yet our energy usage, the kWh that we use on the Cape and Vineyard, has stayed relatively flat, if not decreasing. And this is an anomaly. Elsewhere in Massachusetts, you're seeing increases in electricity of almost anywhere between 4 to 6% fluctuations. So this is a great acknowledgement of the success and the benefits of the energy efficiency programs here on the Cape. The final leg of our stool is consumer advocacy. This is not quite as visible, but can also deliver some significant customer savings, and it's a lot of work representing consumers specifically and mostly at the DPU. Most recently, we deferred a $20 million proposed rate increase for residential customers by intervening in a DPU case on cost causation. It's a very boring and dry subject, but basically it was a shifting of cost to residential customers that we actually questioned and don't think is fair. As a result, the DPU agreed with us and stayed that $20 million increase and ordered an adjudicated proceeding, which we will be participating in to continue to represent ratepayers on the Cape. We participate in lots of DPU proceedings, and as well as working groups on anything from distributed generation to net metering or smart meters. Again, always trying to make sure that we have a place at the table in Boston, bringing the issues that are unique to the Cape to the DPU's attention. We also, in the last several years, had $100 million shared savings, again from intervening in a DPU case on their long-term renewable energy contracts. And what was happening there, and this is also the same thing with the $5.7 million, is in the allocation of costs, the NSTAR was proposing to allocate them to all distribution customers. The Cape Light Compact said, that's not fair. We are not getting any of the benefits. They should only be allocated for those customers who are participating in your basic service program. DPU again agreed with it. It's all about cost allocation. So the $111 million is not going to be in our electric bills. It will be spread out for those who are not in the compact territory, as well as the $5.7 million from the NSTAR Green proceeding. And then there's our initial $25 million that we, again, made sure that we got credited on our electric bill. This is old. It's back in the late 1990s with the sale of the Canal Electric plant when they were selling off their assets. So what's happened in 2013 so far? The auditor recommended the Cape Light Compact conduct agreed upon procedures for the years 2003 through 2008. That has been completed. and an OP, as they call it, agreed upon procedures, determined the appropriateness of the energy efficiency and power supply reserve fund disbursements. So basically, they conducted sample size and concluded that all of the samples that they looked at in the energy efficiency program, all disbursements were appropriate, and that is the largest program of the Cape Light Compact. The budgets are now over $25 million annually through the next 3-year plan, and so they looked at the energy efficiency. They also reviewed 81% of the value of the power supply disbursements, and that's where the mill adder is collected. Again, all of these programs are approved and set by the board, but our audits had been part of the Barnstable County audit. We had not had independent financial statements prepared. They were always included as part of the county. So this is new. You might be thinking, why is this an update? But this is different and new for the Cape Light Compact. It was approved by the board last year. They also, as part of the power supply, they did find 2 disbursements, a total of $59,000 that were they were entered incorrectly. They were appropriately coded, but there was a computer error when they were paid, so they were paid out of the incorrect fund. They also reviewed our power supply bids for us and confirmed for 2005 forward and confirmed that all bids were conducted appropriately and were awarded to either the lowest bidder or the best terms and conditions. I have the website on there. The documents are available on our Cape Light Compact website if you have like to read them, or any of the viewers at home would like to see them as well. And last, as I alluded to, we have independent financial statements for the years 2009, 10, and 11. Those are completed. They are working on 2012 right now. There were no major findings. They did recommend in the management letter minor process improvements, specifically one, to revise the chart of accounts. The chart of accounts that we use is the chart of accounts that Barnstable County has, but it is not conducive to an energy program. A lot of charges have to go into miscellaneous charges because that's what the county that's their chart of accounts. So we will be developing a new chart of accounts that is more in line and has terminology familiar with this industry. In addition, they also recommended that the board approve expenditure of power supply funds through their budget as opposed to just voting. That was a process that we have already implemented. We had a supplemental budget at our last meeting. So again, the 2 recommendations in the management letter, the board has already adopted. And the audits are also on the website, and there is the link right there. And then below you can see the library. That's some of the energy efficiency work we did there this past year. And then the last thing is the Compact has selected a new person to represent them on the Cape and Vineyard Electric Cooperative Board. So looking ahead for 2014, and you can see the Harwich Middle School Energy Club on your right. It's quite large. They're a great group of kids. They're very, very enthusiastic. In fact, they were over on the vineyard with me this weekend. Several of them volunteered. They got up very early for a Saturday and were out there helping with the Martha's Vineyard Regional High School students. So they work not only within the school, they network with all of the schools through the National Energy Education Development Program. And that's a project that the Cape Light Compact Board chose to fund, use our marketing dollars to educate and to train all of the teachers on the Cape and Vineyard Elementary and High School in the science of energy. So looking ahead, we have an annual energy audit every year. The board committed to having and maintaining independent financial statements. We will also be included in the Barnstable County audit as well. We are conducting a energy efficiency study. This is known as a penetration study. And for our next 3-year plan, we are doing a look backwards into our database to see who's participated, who's served, and what's left out there that needs to be done relative to energy efficiency, so that the next 3-year plan is based on some substantial data and numbers as to what we should be serving and what we have to do to totally saturate our market. And we will also be issuing an RFP for the municipal aggregation program. That existing contract ends at the end of calendar year 2014, so we'll be gearing up for the next contract. And that's one of our, she's using the static electricity to demonstrate the transfer of energy there. And so if you have any questions, I'd be happy to address them.
Questions? Larry?
I have just a couple. Thanks, Maggie. Good presentation.
Thank you.
Are there disbursements going from Cape Light to CVEC, and if so, there has been, has there not? And what can you give me a feeling of what % of disbursements support CVEC?
The Cape Light Compact Governing Board has been supporting the Cape and Vineyard Electric Cooperative with grants for their operating costs. And I don't want to pull a number because I'm guaranteed 50% I'll have it right or 50% I'll have it wrong, and people are funny about numbers. All of a sudden what I say becomes the number. I'd be happy to forward that to you. The CVEX audited financial statements include all of the information, but I'd be happy to get back to you. I know I've seen numbers out in some email threads, and they are not correct because they're not accurately accounting for the information. So I will do that. In fact, their draft financial statements I think are coming out soon, and they will knit all of the pieces together. And I just, since you brought it up, you kind of teed that one up for me. If you don't mind, Barry, I'll speak for the board as to explain why they funded the Cape and Vineyard Electric Cooperative. CVEX was created to purchase wholesale energy to start to stabilize electric rates. And the nature of the Green Communities Act changed that with the introduction of net metering and made all of these projects and contracts financial transactions as opposed to electrons that would flow and start to stabilize electricity. But the benefit of funding the Cape and Vineyard Electric Cooperative and why the board did this was as a result of something known as the Avoided Energy Supply Cost Study, which is a study that's prepared from the ISO New England, which looks at and actually documents the benefit of distributed generation and specifically renewable projects. So the board engaged the authors of that study and asked them to document if we pursued X amount of renewable energy projects, specifically our PV projects, what would be the benefit to ratepayers. So the benefit of several $1 million of CLC ratepayer funds will serve almost I do remember this number, $26 million in avoided energy supply costs for all ratepayers, not just the towns, not just people in the Cape Light Compact. By putting distributed renewable generation, which are plants locally here, you're avoiding the need for new transmission, distribution lines, as well as power supply plants. So that, again, isn't something that the board made up. It is an ISO New England study that documents the value of doing certain things locally as to avoiding the need to build other plants. So that's part of the logic behind that. So it's a long-winded way, but I will respond and get you the exact contributions.
More?
If I can ask one more, this is easy, Maggie, but when you, the slide on the energy savings, you sort of went over that quickly about their types of measurements what do you measure to get at that efficient? What types of things do you measure to get to the efficiencies that you report?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
There's a slide where you've said that we've saved X amount of dollars.
This one?
Yeah. The 230, and then you mentioned
Oh.
that that's based on a series of various measurements.
Yes,
I was
it's
interested in
measures.
what the measurements
Not the
were.
measurements. It's the $207,000 is based on the energy savings associated with them. If I said measurements, I should know the measures. And a measure is a CFL light bulb, an LED light bulb, air sealing, insulation.
Okay, so it's how many audits you do of houses and what you do to correct
Or
those.
businesses, variable frequency drive motors that might go into a hotel or any of your large commercial linen products in Hyannis, so different things. Everything that the Cape Light Compact does, every energy is a measure, and it has a measure life, and it has calculated energy savings, which we report then to the DPU. So in Harwich, the 842 customers that participated, all of the different measures that we installed saved $207,000 in electric costs in 2012.
Peter?
First of all, Maggie, thanks for coming, your presentation, and thank you so much for your involvement in the library, certainly lighting issues they had and some other issues over there, as well as getting the street light moving to LED. As you point out, it's going to save a lot. I'm wondering, though, if somewhere along the line you folks have calculated what I would just call a return on investment for Cape Light Compact. In other words, over the number of years that you've been in existence, how much money has gone into funding the organization, and savings like this, and even things like the intervention in the rate cases and savings from with the amount of money that was garnered from the sale of the power plant and whatnot. Have you done any numbers like that to look at what the return on investment is?
Yes, but they're not aggregate. We're required to look at the energy efficiency program for all cost-effective measures. We report to the DPU. So we know that for every dollar that we invest, we get a return of investment of almost $3.50. So that we know, that's been documented. It's a very complicated algorithms and spreadsheets that are prepared for the energy efficiency program. So yes for energy efficiency. On the power supply program, no, and I'm not so certain that it's going to be positive, because when we, so I'm not, because I wouldn't know what to benchmark it with. If you benchmarked it to N-Star's price to the Cape Light Compact prices, there are times when you're going to be definitely above. I mean, there was 2006 and 8 where we were over a penny above the distribution company, but so not in an aggregate level. So.
Okay. Thank you. And we look forward to, by the way, you talked about distributed generation, getting our 4 megawatts of solar here on the landfill.
You and me both.
Trying to get that.
Yes.
Hopefully
I know.
sometime around the first
I am
season.
coming to that ribbon cutting party.
You're invited.
I think we're all going to go. Ed?
Well, you know, this issue of savings is interesting, because in the material that you provided us tonight, the fast facts thing with the 842 accounts that participated in the energy audits, they'll save $207,000 this year. Well, they'll also save $207,000 next year and the year after. These
Yes,
things
and
have
they
a cumulative impact, I know, in many types of programs that, you know, you only get credit for that first year, but it's an ongoing impact, which I think is not insubstantial.
It strikes me that that 842 is a relatively low number of people participating in Harwich. So is there anything that you would want to say that might encourage people to participate? Can you explain how it works?
Sure.
Or
Let me go to the last slide, which has the phone number in it. You can call the 797-6699 number, and it goes right to Barnesville Village. These are our dollars. We are paying every month on our electric bill to run these programs. And you will pay regardless of whether you participate in the program. So now is the time to participate. The incentives are very high. You are eligible for up to $4,000 in measures for your home. Businesses also, it's up to $80,000 depending upon what type of business and the measures that need to be identified. We have the staff to walk through. There's our heat loan program. If you have an energy audit, we have a zero interest, 7-year, up to $25,000 loan. Again, we use the funds to buy down interest rates, to replace an aging furnace, regardless of whether it's gas or oil or propane, to switch from electric heat to some other source of heat to save money. I had a very close friend who just had her house insulated. Just bought a house, it was a cottage, had no insulation. I mean, we were in the basement. I said, you could see outside. Had no insulation along the sill. Pretty common. So she just participated in the program. She maxed out the 4,000. She was so excited to be in a home that's comfortable, and she oil heat, so she will not have to heat. So we have new lighting technology, great ways to insulate, to airstrip and weatherize your home, and just to be more comfortable. And you know what? If nothing else, you should call, have an audit, have somebody come out, and have an affirmation that your home is efficient and as comfortable as it can be. It's a good way to get a return on the money that you're putting in.
in a typical house, how long would the audit take?
The audit is about 2 hours. They'll do a blower door test. They'll look at they'll examine soup to nuts. So it takes about 2 hours. You can schedule it accordingly. You don't have to be there. You can, if you can't get the time off, you can have a friend, you can have a family member or a neighbor be in the home for you. You work that out. So this is something that you can accomplish.
And it doesn't cost the homeowner anything to have the audit?
No, because we've already paid for the audit, so it doesn't cost anything. There are no, and a lot of us are on, retirees are on fixed incomes. So there are, if you are on a fixed income, and I can tell you the Barnstable County average retirement pension is $19,000. Those early retirees, which are our teachers and our town employees, are eligible for 100% incentives. So that all of that information is on our website, which is also up on the screen. Poke around. You'll be really surprised what's out there. And just as I said, even if you call just to find out that you don't need anything and that you're doing everything that you can is a good idea.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just
Ed?
one question. This was sort of fairly specific about audits. In the case of having a furnace, I know somebody who had one recently, I don't know, 6, 7 years ago, replaced, and is very efficient furnace, but her heating bill went up, and I think the problem is, I think the installer drastically oversized
Yes.
the furnace, did not know proper calculations, and so it is cycling on an awful lot and not burning efficiently, and so it's costing a lot more to run. Is that a question that the energy audit could answer?
Yes, when you call in, so it's a gas furnace?
Yeah.
Okay, and again, that does happen. So call in when you call, they'll talk to the technician, and then they'll send somebody out there to actually look at it to see if there are ways or there's anything that can be done to address the issue on the furnace, which is why again, I don't encourage anybody to borrow, but that's a nice thing about the heat loan. Is part of the requirement for the heat loan is making sure that whatever you're putting in, one, you do your energy efficiency improvements first, and that they're sizing what the equipment is accordingly. So, and we have a great, really, really well-developed base of independent contractors, insulators, as well as installers of heating systems now, all as a result not only of the Cape Light Compact, but statewide of the development and investment in energy efficiency. I mean, we are #1 in the country, Massachusetts, on the ACEEE. Is that the ACEEE is where we are #1 in the United States of America for efficiency. Yes, have them call and
Okay.
have them look it out.
No other questions? Thank you very much. It's
Thank
been
you.
very
Have a good night.
informative.
We have to go home and watch the Red Sox.
Oh, not fair.
Any update on the score?
Thank you.
So, my iPad.
We now, you will keep us informed. Thank you. We now move to old business, and the first subject is the ambulance fee waiver draft.
Mr. Chairman, this is the second reading of the ambulance fee. This was a policy the board had adopted a number of years ago, and what I had done, based upon my conversations with the town treasurer, revised it slightly to bring it up to date and follow some guidance given to us by our auditors. From the last meeting you had, the only change that we have made is we have clarified under the procedures number 2, we added the words, we would accept insurance company, e.g. Blue Cross, Harvard Pilgrim, Tufts, etc., along with the other insurance payments as full payment for ambulance fees. The board had asked that that be clarified. Other than that, there are no other changes from my previous submission to you.
Linda?
A question which is under 7B, on the second page, it says if there's no insurance, the person has to sign and date a statement, I certify that pains and penalty perjury, don't have the financial resources. There's going to be no requirement or request to document that you don't have the resources? How
That
are we
is
gonna
one- that is one part of it.
follow up with that?
And then what happens is they sign that, and then there is a check made by because the assessors would have most of the information concerning whether or not the person was low income. I'll put it that way. So
shouldn't
that's
that be-
part of it.
Shouldn't that be in here, or is that just,
It was a standard procedure. If you'd like, we can put it in, but that was the procedure in the past. If you'd like it in, we can certainly add that.
I guess
Okay.
I think it should be just
Sure.
that it is going to
Yep.
be reviewed
Mhm.
somehow.
Peter?
Done.
I have some editorials that I'll pass on to you, Bob.
Oh, good. Thank
If you
you.
don't mind, but I would say that when you go through the procedure, it seems to me that items 2 and 3 should be swapped so you get the right sequence. In other words, you know, you should bill for the ambulance service
what
before
you
someone gets into the, you know, did I pay the insurance or not? It just seems like that's a sequence involved, if you would.
And you have those you're going to give to me?
Yeah,
Or do you
yeah, I'll
want me to
give it
write
to
them?
you, yeah,
Okay,
sure.
great.
Not clear to me who the town collector is. It's mentioned here a number of times. Is that the treasurer? Is that?
Yes, because she made the change. She said it's the town collector,
I
not
don't
the
know what
treasurer. I
town
said, okay.
collector is. Yeah,
I
we
said,
ought to call it,
yeah. She's the, that's her title, one of her titles. It's the tax collector.
okay. And then I would just say that when I look at item 9, it basically says if you have no insurance, by the way, and then you don't pay your bill and you go through all these things, that your privilege is denied to do things like get a beach sticker, a transfer sticker, a building permit, shellfish license, etc. I don't find that appropriate myself.
That was in your old policy.
I understand,
we can
I'm
certainly
just-
take that out.
You know, maybe we were wrong before. Number one, I don't know how you police that, quite frankly. You know, there's gonna be a list with the sticker people that says, don't give Fred one, because he owes $20 on the ambulance. And the other thing, quite frankly, is, and I know, you know, this is basically insurance reimbursement for the ambulance service, but let's just say an ambulance run costs $800. We just throw that out there, and the insurance pays $600, and then we say everything's fine. Well, someone who has no insurance then is expected to pay $800, and then we're gonna chase them all over town if they don't pay it. There's something wrong there.
And you can ask for a waiver if that's what they choose
I
to.
understand,
But-
yeah. So.
So do you want to remove 9?
I'm
That was your
uncomfortable with
prior
it.
policy.
I
I just
understand.
included it.
Have we
Happy to
ever-
do it.
Let me ask this question. Yeah, when was it put in place, and did we ever do this? Has anyone ever been denied a beach sticker because they owe for an ambulance run?
Not that I'm aware of.
I don't either. I mean,
So we have a rule that we can enforce.
It was, you could, there is a way to enforce it, but it is a lot of paperwork. I think you adopted this in the original was in 1996.
yeah, the other one, quite frankly, is that someone who's out of town, non-resident, who elects not to pay their
Right.
ambulance bill, assume they have no insurance, what are you gonna do? But someone who lives in this town, who pays taxes and
Right.
blah, 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 who, you know, doesn't pay it, now we're gonna chase them all over town and not let them go to the beach, so.
We're
I have a
happy to
problem
take
with
that out if that's what you wish. It is your
Makes
policy.
sense. I would think so.
Done.
Would you like, could I
Larry?
submit my editorial?
Yeah, thank you.
If you don't mind. Excuse me.
Bob, I'm still a little confused in the language on paragraph 2 as it relates to 7A. The whole concept of full payment, if insurance pays less than full payment. I think Peter sort of referred to this too in one of his comments, but
Well,
are they required to make that up? It's not, I don't find this to be that clear on. if
The
they make
issue
that
is
up or
this,
when.
that, let's use Medicare as the example. Medicare pays what it pays. We are required, as our hospitals and our bills, to accept that payment. That is the payment. We cannot bill again for that. So what we're saying is, what the board asked last week was, if an insurance company has an amount they pay for ambulance, which is certified by the state, et cetera, we will accept that.
As full payment.
Yes. That's what I think that's what you've been doing, by the way, and it just puts it into writing.
And
So
that's
it's
why I
clear.
thought,
Right.
Is it clear that that's our purpose between 2 and 7A? That's the part I was getting.
True.
Yeah, 2, you asked that be clarified, I think we did. The 7 is the financial hardship, so how do you get there? Well, if they have private insurance, we're just reiterating, you know, if you have that, we're going to apply that first, just so it's crystal clear. It is redundant, but it seemed to make sense to say it again. So the person clearly understood, how do I get my reimbursement? Well, do you have insurance? Yes. Well, we need to take that, and it may or may not be appropriate, full payment.
And maybe I'm the one it's not clear to, but it
Okay.
says, it must be applied before consideration of a waiver,
Right.
before considering a waiver.
Yes,
But in fact, if you have it, there's no need for a waiver.
correct.
Because it's all paid.
Right.
This sort of implies that
redundant.
they're still trying to go after the gap, was my problem in reading it.
We can look at it one more time.
Well, maybe
Because they're
clear
always
everyone
tough.
else. That was just I was,
It is redundant
I think
and on
what-
purpose.
I think what he's trying to say is that if when you come in for a waiver, the question to be asked is, do you have insurance? And that,
And if they do, we may be
Bill the
accepting it and we're
insurance.
done. They may have missed something, and that has happened, I guess, in the past. So once this is adopted, then, as I understand it, in this case, the treasurer and collector has not gone out to bid yet. So she wants this done so that then she will go out to bid for possibly a new company to do all of this work. So we have one more reading. We'll make these adjustments if that's acceptable. And your next meeting on the 21st, we'll ask you for adoption. Thank you. That's great.
Okay.
Oh,
Ed, do
sorry.
you have a
Yeah.
question?
Okay, so in 9, we're going to drop it altogether, or what?
Entirely up to you.
Item 6.
You seem to indicate that you wanted to drop it. Is that correct?
That's my recommendation.
If the bill remains unpaid after sections listed under item 6, A through C, I don't see an A through C in item 6.
7, I think.
Must be 7. Sorry, they didn't
Okay.
make that change.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
That was the
All
other.
right, have been pursued and/or no payment plan has been approved, contract has been made, denial of, what we're the way it reads now is the only recourse if somebody doesn't pay and doesn't apply for a waiver, is that we tell them that we're not going to let them get a sticker or a permit or a license, as opposed to turning it to a collection agency. Is there-
The board seemed in your prior policy, you had an aversion for us going to a collection agency.
Okay,
So we're just following that guidance from your last policy. I think we will go as far as we can with the company who will be administering this, and they do send letters, they make calls, but we don't go to the collection agency type operation because the board had not approved that in the past.
Well, my concern is, why would I pay this bill? Because if I don't pay the bill, nothing happens.
Ultimately, but we do send you the bill. It is an obligation. If the board wants, we can go further. I mean, you had chosen in the past not to. Now, I suppose the other issue that we wind up with is that since we're going to have much more health care available and people are going to be required to sign up, allegedly 90 to 95% of the people in this state will have some type of insurance which will pay for transportation by ambulance.
Linda?
I was a little confused by your question, Angelo, because number 8 says, if no financial hardship is involved, overdue bills may be reported to a collection agency.
Okay.
I
Okay.
think that is saying
all right.
that if there's no financial
Okay, so
hardship,
it's up there.
may. So
May.
it-
All
And
right, so
that-
and the collection agency sends me 2 letters and a phone call,
Something like that.
all right? And then I say no.
then it goes on your credit report.
Well, then I suppose, one thing that the auditors have said when there is an ambulance waiver administrator, one of you folks, you could say because it is May. Now, here we have person A who is not going to pay anything, has refused to, we've done the collection. That person may say to the rest of the board, it's time to go for another step. And you certainly could go to small claims court, you could certainly take other actions. But it's very difficult in a policy to have all of those nuances, and that's why you have a waiver administrator, who is
Well-
one member of the Board of Selectmen.
Well, then I would be much more comfortable in 8 if it said if no financial hardship is involved, overdue bills may be reported to a collection agency and other steps taken. Whatever,
Is that what you'd like?
You know, because I think people have to understand that there's somebody standing someplace with some sort of stick.
Well.
You don't have to be specific, but, you know.
Well, I'll just remind the board, and I think I'm the only one here that was part of the original wave of putting this in place, I think 95 or 96. Dana, you might have been there too.
It's
Chief
this
Peterson was definitely there, and it was meant to be an insurance reimbursement program, quite frankly, not meant to go chase people around town. I think in this case, and, you know, Bob, you're right, that more and more people are having insurance, and we're really, the folks who are trying to chase here, if that's what you want to call it, are those that probably aren't able to pay the bill. I mean,
Sure.
and so if they simply, you know, fill out the form correctly for a financial hardship waiver, you know, and we have a, you know, a waiver administrator, would go through that, and I would hazard a guess it'd be very, very few that would show up as just someone's, you know, makes $1 million a year and they didn't pay their bill. I don't know. I mean, yeah, okay, in that case, we should chase them. But if somebody's, you know, making minimum wage or whatever and they just don't have it and, you know, we're gonna chase them around? I don't think so.
No, I don't think so. I think
My intent.
that's fair, but if people start to hear that, you know, you don't have to pay it, then everybody's gonna stop paying.
Maybe we should ask Bob to find out from the fire department what percentage of folks that decide to take a ride in our ambulance service actually have insurance. That
And
might
I
be an interesting number.
I think we, not quite to that point, I did ask the collector to get that information from Coastal, and we do have that, and that will be in your packet as backup information for 2 years. I asked for 2 years, which they have provided, which I just saw.
For next week.
Yes.
That'd be interesting.
You may have it in the Dropbox now. I don't remember when they put it in. I just had received it yesterday. So I will, this will be on for the 21st, and we will hopefully adopt it at that time with the changes.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Ed.
You know, I think having the step of having the waiver administrator, as we look at these cases that may be reported for further collection activity, for those folks that are in town, presumably we have ways of knowing something about them, knowing what their situations are, and there are some folks that just don't, in some cases, have the inclination or the wherewithal to respond, and can make, I think, a somewhat informed decision about those. And if the case is that we choose to waive the bill, in some ways the resident is through their tax payments, whether the property tax they pay or through their rental payment for the house they rent, that they're contributing to the town. But in the case of people who are not residents in the town who receive services here, and because they're not close at hand, figure they can just ignore us and we'll go away. You know, I think we still need to have that option of have somebody looking into it to make a collection.
When you bring us back for the third reading, we should hold or have a vote on the appointment of the waiver
Yes,
person.
sir. That would be great.
Pete, Ernst?
To follow on the discussion here, maybe in 8, where it says if no financial hardship is involved, overdue bills may be reported to a collections agency. Maybe we add in there, at any point in time, the waiver administrator can suspend the collection agency activity or something like that.
Sure.
In other words, if someone doesn't fill out the back of the form and for some reason they're in Florida and blah, 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 we keep sending this stuff, gets turned over to the collection agency, and then we find out that, wait a minute, there really is something going on here as a hardship. Maybe whoever's, you know, the waiver administrator is can step in at that point in time
Sure.
and at least suspend the
Makes sense.
collection agency stuff. We don't want to become the Gestapo, I don't think. Well, let's see, it depends on who the administrator is, maybe.
Are we finished with that subject?
Yes, sir, thank you.
Okay, the next subject is the revised budget message. I had asked Bob to do me a favor, and I believe everybody has a copy of it or has read it, and to give us a listing of the process that is followed in a regional school district, so we understand what we're facing now that we weren't facing before, and how it's different than before, and the impact of those activities. The revision that you have in there basically adds a paragraph. It adds some other things, but it adds, the major change is a paragraph which specifically talks about the schools and to make sure that people know that we felt that the school district made certain claims and promises during the process about what kinds of savings might exist, and that we would like them to certainly adhere to those numbers if they can, and that we need to have discussions during this budget period to see how close we can get to those numbers, or if at all get close to those numbers. And that's in about the 1, 2, 3rd paragraph
On the first page.
on the first page. Any, Larry?
Just a couple, Angela. On that paragraph you're referring to, I thought there were, sometimes it's better to be more direct in the statements than possibly was made there. A couple suggestions I would have would be where you mentioned the 4.1 million figure. Clarify that and list the Harwich proportion of that. I think was what, 2.9 million, so that's clear of what relates to Harwich.
That could be added.
The other one, the comment suggesting the initial operation savings, where you say that the relatively significant cost savings.
Where are you,
on the
Larry?
last sentence on the first on that paragraph on the first page.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, which
Where you say being, where second, we must work with Montmore Regional
Yep.
School
Yep.
District, that
Yep.
paragraph. You have a savings of 4.1. My suggestion is.
Yeah, the
that
2
that's
point,
regional.
yeah, I can do
Let's
that.
put it in the Harwich. The other is that, let me, I gotta move this.
I was being consistent with Peter's 4.1.
It is 4.1.
Its total is 4.1.
Let's not forget about it.
I can put a parentheses
It
there.
is, but I was trying to relate specifically to.
I'll put a
Harwich.
parentheses and say Harwich's share is 2.9.
The other is comments relative to significant cost savings in fiscal year. That sentence,
Yep.
I thought might be,
I
pardon?
don't understand that sentence, quite frankly.
I can't even figure out where where are you talking about?
I'm talking about, you see the sentence of savings of 4.1 million put forth, and
Yep.
below that, the next sentence, the actual savings, one after that, based, however, based on anticipated changes, et cetera.
Yeah,
My suggestion was to make that more directly that what they said was that operational savings during this meeting referred to is much less than what was predicted, and will take longer to realize than was suggested before. I just thought that should be a more direct statement than what's there now.
well,
That is pretty, that's
I thought you were
it's not very
being,
direct.
I thought you were being overly polite, and and basically, I thought if we were going to put it in there, we should just state it straight away.
Put it in.
Is that the last sentence on the
It's
page?
the last sentence.
Last sentence on the first page.
Last
however,
sentence on the
based on
first page.
anticipated changes in the timing of committing for debt and comments relative to any significant cost savings in FY15 budget being achieved at a joint meeting of the Board of Selectmen School Committee and School
That's it. So I
Superintendent.
just-
It is imperative that the group work together to achieve a significant level of savings to reduce the potential 7% tax levy increase now possible for FY7. That's not direct?
The sentence is too long.
I want a shorter sentence. I can do a shorter sentence.
I'm confused by what it's trying to say. Based on.
What it's saying is that we had a meeting with the school committee, and they said that those savings would not be delivered. And the impact of that is that our tax rate will probably go up about 7%. And what that says is we should work together to try and keep that down. That's
Then
what it
why
says.
don't we say in there that they're the ones who said the savings aren't going to be delivered? Why don't we just say that them, because right now it says a joint meeting that we sort of all agree, this sounds like we sort of all agreed that we weren't gonna get these savings.
I got your point, Angela. I was just trying to make it a little more direct to what I felt
It's-
that you
Okay.
said
It's
here.
very indirect.
All right, fine.
And by the way, the 7% tax levy increase was projected by the latest five-year financial plan that was presented to us. That's Rick Carter.
That's another word I changed to, from possible to predicted or something.
Yeah.
So,
Well, you know, I did the same thing,
Predicted.
getting started in this thing, where we talk about, you know, where the heck is it? Oh, things like, it was thought that, you know, it should be as expected that, would be favorably, will be favorably, things like hope. I just changed some of those words, that's all.
Those I could change.
Yeah.
Just give
I
me-
do think, and I brought this up last week, and nobody seemed to like it, maybe Linda liked it, I don't know. I would suggest on the last page, just before we have these 4 bullet items, it'd say, you know, what we recommend. I would still like to add a statement that says, however, Proposition 2.5 underride should be evaluated as a means of reducing the tax levy by $990,000, which was voted to support the transition phase in May 2012.
Well-
Evaluated, not that we're gonna do it.
Well, one of the reasons I had asked Rob to write out the you know, what goes on is, yeah, we can try that, but what'll end up happening most probably is we'll have to reduce the municipal side. You know, that's the problem we're faced with.
We should
you know,
evaluate it.
You know,
But it should be evaluated.
This is a message. We need to put the school department or school committee on notice that it's tough times coming, and they need to squeeze everything out of it they can. Because you're right, we're gonna be on the municipal side, the ones paying the
yeah,
bill.
I mean, if we put that in, and what we're doing is threatening something that could be very disastrous for us.
It's not threatening, it says we'll evaluate it, that's all.
I
Yeah.
agree with that. I don't think it's threatening. I think it's trying to keep the issue up front and that we need to evaluate it.
But when you evaluate it, you find out that what it does, if you went forward with it, is it hurts you, us.
yeah,
I mean, that's the evaluation.
It's because you're giving up on the savings
Because you're
already.
already giving up.
You're already
Well-
surrendering.
Well,
I argued against it last
Mr.
week,
Chair.
and I'm afraid I'll argue against it again because of that. I think I mean, I wanted to make the direct statement to make that a little, but this underride, throwing that out scares me a little.
Yeah, I think we're just,
Then you shouldn't throw out the potential 7% tax levy increases. That scares the heck out of me and a lot of other people out there.
well, that's what we're dealing with. That's a fact that we're dealing with. And what we need to do is we need to somehow work with the school committee to get them to accept changes to their plan. And that's the only power we really have.
Which is basically
So-
none. Because the way that the school district works, that we can have all the conversation we want, but we have no power
That's right.
at all.
That's correct.
So,
Yeah, but this won't change it. This doesn't add.
No, this doesn't change
This
it.
doesn't increase our power.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
you know, I look at this statement on the potential 7% tax levy increase. If there is a 7% tax levy increase. It can be ascribed to probably only two areas. One, the increasing the levy for the 2.5% that is allowed yearly, which means that we can, if the total taxes are 40 million, we get to bump it up to, I don't know, 40,400,000 that we collect off of the property tax and personal property tax levy. The remainder of whatever that levy increase, the only other source that it could cause it is the bringing on the debt of the school. And there's nothing we can really do except welch on our bond payments and not pay them that we can avoid that level of increase. So in terms of reducing the 2%, the 7% levy increase, the only two ways that we really have is, one, going after an underride, or two, not taking the 2.5% levy increase, because those are the things that cap the levy. The expenses that the school runs, if they're spending too much money, we have to figure out how to keep that in the levy increase that we have. I mean, unless we're going to go and ask for an override on top of it, and nobody is talking about that. So I don't see, other than us taking an action to reduce our tax levy in some fashion, that asking the school district to hold down their expenses are really going to affect anything. Because if, quite honestly, if they cut back on their spending and we see $500,000 worth of savings, well, we all know the projects around town that we've been deferring year after year after year that will receive that $500,000 of spending.
But
if the critical issue is reducing the tax levy, getting the school to save on it isn't going to do it.
Ed, I think you missed a point. One of the reasons it got to a 7% tax levy is a change in timing and amount of the debt. That can be changed. That is one of the biggest impacts. The other part is the lack of savings in operating budgets this year. Maybe there are things that could be changed there too. But those are,
Mr. Chair.
no, I'm talking about the
Still
school
the schools, okay.
school.
Mr. Chair, you can change the timing of the bond sales, but you're going to sell whatever bonds you need to pay off the construction costs on the building, and whether you change the timing and you only see 4% of that increase this year and the additional 3% next year is really, sort of a shell game. I mean, it's going to be the bond cost per year is going to cost what it's going to cost.
We're mixing apples and oranges here in
Yeah.
the discussion.
Linda?
Two comments. One is, as the town contemplated the regional school concept, total annual savings of $4.1 million were put forth. Could you put in there by whom? Because, Mr. Ryan is being tabbed as saying these are Dave Ryan's
Yeah,
numbers.
I understand that.
And we should say, who put those numbers forth? And it really is the people organizing, and it was really a school
Okay.
study, et cetera. Second thing is that with this timing change of the debt, I don't quite remember the numbers, but Harwich's share, their $65 million is the project, and the state is going to kick in about half of that, 51.37 or whatever it is, but the state's going to kick in half, and then we pay 72%, and so that 72% number is something like $30 million on the upside, or 28, or
It's-
whatever it is.
It's going to be like 21 or 22 million.
Okay. It's going to be 21 or 22. Is the bonding that we're talking about, the $65 million, the total number, less the state's? Let's just use 50%. 65 million, it's like $30 million that the two towns have to come up with.
Yes, and that's what the
Okay.
bonding is.
If the schools do not spend, because there's already been conversation I've seen in the papers, et cetera, that there's been about several $1 million worth of savings because of this or that, or bids came in less. So this $30 million is going to get bonded. It's going to be at the regional district. So if we only spend $27 million, how does the town, how do we get back part of this? Or is the Monomoy district planning on keeping that and using it for other things? I'm just, I'm a little concerned or confused here on this concept that more money is going to get bonded than is needed to build the building, et cetera. And where does the excess go? And who gets to keep it? Or does it say, in effect, prepay bond costs or something, or whatever? I mean, I don't know if there's a prepayment issue, but where does that excess money go, and who controls it?
You're asking you borrow more than what you need.
To the,
Yeah, are they, is there?
to the
is there a
extension,
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
to the
they're
extent-
borrowing more than they need, so where does the excess go,
To the-
and who controls
to the
it?
extent that I understand it, the original project budget was approved by the Massachusetts School Building Authority at just under 65 million,
Sure,
64.
65 million for
Yeah.
round numbers.
And that was what was approved at town meeting and at the ballot. Of that, a portion of it was 51% of allowable costs were going to be picked up by the state, and the remainder of costs picked up by the district. At the time that they went out to bid, and the bids came in at almost $5 million below the estimate. The project budget was amended, so it currently sits at 59 million and whatever. In that process of reducing the $5 million, the majority of the savings of that came to the district, with a very small percentage going to the state. As the building gets built, the district is paying the bills up front and then submitting for reimbursement and actually getting their reimbursement check in a month.
Yep.
And that's working quite well. The bond issue that they're talking about doing now will be for somewhat less than 100% of what they estimate at this point to be the costs, the out-of-pocket costs that the district will have in doing the project. Probably in the neighborhood of 80 or 85%. The remaining 15% will be left to bond after the completion of the project, when all of the bills are totaled and we know exactly to the dime how much more we need to bond to close out the project. Because it's really a problem if you've bonded for more money and you have money left over, then you have to go proportionately and refund that to the bond purchasers, because you can't use it for any other purpose.
And that's why I was asking the question. not
Your
knowing.
question is more towards, as long as it stays within the scope of the project as opposed to the taxpayers, basically.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that, can I also ask it as being on the building committee, subcommittee, sorry, that if there are any additions to what was in the original $65 million, that someone's going to perhaps give the two towns a little, yes, we started at 65 million in round numbers, it's now down to 60 million. We'd like to put in 3 more bathrooms, so that raises it 200,000. Is anybody going to give us any of that information, or do we guess?
If there are any, the plan, as I understand the plan, if there are any substantial deviations, to use principally the owner's contingency fund, which is $500,000 to augment things that were dropped from the project in trying to keep costs down. If there are major additions, those will be brought back. I do know that there have been some minor additions. Some of the things that before the project budget was finalized, they decided to scale back on the quality of flooring, and they've decided to, in certain areas, upgrade to a little bit higher quality for maybe a $12,000 increase. They agreed to add back in some guttering that was taken off the building because it in the long run will reduce some of the maintenance problems of just having water drain off roofs. Some minor things like that were dropped out, but any major scope items that were dropped out will be at least brought up for public discussion before any decision is made on.
And public discussion coming to the Board of Selectmen of both towns?
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Peter?
Just housekeeping, and these are sort of, I won't say fun things on the budget thing, but just some topics. In the second paragraph, the last sentence, I think the hiring of an outstanding town administrator only has anything to do with the budget message, so I just take it out of there, quite frankly. We're doing that anyhow. It doesn't, that has no impact on anything, other than, at least as far as what this document says. And then on page 2, the point number 3 about fees, number 1, I think, and I've marked this up, I think the paragraph goes on forever, but the identification of including non-resident children and grandchildren of residents, I understand it, but I don't agree with it. This has, I'll just pick a topic, somebody has grandchildren and they put them in the swim program in the summertime or something. Now it sounds like we're saying we should have different fees for those people or those kids than other kids that reside in town, if you will, or grandchildren or whatever. I don't agree with that, quite frankly, just because the grandparents or the parents or whatever of these kids that are out of town, if you will, visiting for the summer, whatever, already pay their taxes anyhow. And they don't put those kids aren't going to our school system, so I think they're paying enough in taxes. If the intent here is to talk about some kind of a different fee associated with kids, and I just don't think that's appropriate. So that's just me.
I'd agree with you on
I
that.
agree with that.
Fine.
There's 3 votes.
As you all know, I have a rather large number of grandchildren.
I know it's your problem.
And
There is nothing that keeps you from making an additional contribution on your real estate taxes
Well.
to cover that.
Or any donation you'd like to
But-
make.
Absolutely.
fine.
But I also know they tend to spend the summer at the beach club, so.
3 to 3?
3 to 3 and the 6,
Right.
okay.
So,
Okay.
obviously,
There's some changes to be made.
fine,
I'll give you my comments.
thank you.
Do with it you want with it.
I can give you a comment I have, I'll email it to you. Mine was short.
Okay,
It's tough
Somehow.
being chairman, so.
what can I tell you?
That's why we reduced your pay to be the same as the rest of us.
The
You see, Angela, this is why I didn't want to be chairman. Last time I was chairman, I just copied the statement from the year before and updated the numbers.
I think,
Nobody's giving you a hard time like they gave me a hard time last year because it's beyond the October
oh,
1st.
no, we,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
We-
I'm the
we've-
one who got the hard time on that
we,
one.
we approved it, though. It's been
What a
approved.
wiggle out of that one.
Ooh,
Hey, give us some credit.
So, okay.
I know.
The,
I pushed them into approving it last meeting with the agreement that we could amend it. But we were going to have an approved document one way or another
So we
last week.
We did.
successfully, you're right, wiggled out of it, so give us credit.
Wiggled out of it, yep.
the, well,
Guys wiggle out.
all right. By next June, we should have a budget message.
We'll have a budget before you have, maybe we'll have the budget before you have
I
the
hope
message.
so.
and be-
I hope so.
You just want to get it right.
It's go forth and do good. The
Allen Harbor.
Okay, I don't know.
next subject, I think, is the Allen Harbor.
Mr. Rendon saw me just a little while ago. He has a boat sinking, so he's out taking care of that, so he will not be
It's
here.
on our new one, I hope.
Yeah, it's
No,
not
no,
a-
it's not ours. Unfortunately, it's a citizen in town, and he's assisting them. So we probably should start the conversation anyway. You have my memo of September 26th, and you also have Mr. Rendon's memo to me dated September 2nd, outlining the issues. It really boils down to this, that if we allow if we want to allow the continuation of storage of boats at Allen Harbor, the town will need to come up with $68,000 more in order to go forward with the grant. If you wish to keep it at 50%, then we would make other arrangements next year for, with a bid to have boats stored at another location, but they would not be able to be stored at Allen Harbor, based upon what the state has told us. So the question to the board is, how do you wish to proceed with the 50% reimbursement or the 61.2%?
Ed?
Well, I guess the first question is, the revenue to the town is $16,000 a year, and if we have to come up with $68,000 additional 4 years, that's 16,000 is 64,000, and so that's sort of our break-even point. And then by 8 years, we've sort of lost 60,000, and in 12 years, we've lost 120,000, and ongoing, unless we have a plan of an alternate location to use that is acceptable and leasable to the boat folks to continue to bring in the revenue. And but if we don't have some place that we can use that the boat people are going to want to, because I assume the reason that Allen Harbor is so desirable is it's right next to the harbor. You don't have to truck anywhere. Right. If we come up with another location that maybe they'd use, but they'd only want to pay $3,000 or $4,000 because they have to incur collectively an additional $15,000 or $20,000 in trucking fee to move all the boats up there and back. It would be hardly worth taking the higher percentage.
Your problem you run into in this town is that with your 16,000 that goes into the general fund, and that 16,000 cannot be applied to this debt. So if you had a reserve for appropriation account or something of that nature, you could probably do this. Your problem is that you will have to come up with 68,000 in new money, because the 16,000 you already collect is paired with all of the other monies that come in and is not easily identified after the fact.
There is a suggestion in your memo about potentially raising the rental from 16,000 to 20,000.
The issue would be that it is a bid, it would be next year, and we could have a minimum bid of 20,000. Again, the company would have to determine whether or not they would be willing to pay that. Certainly, they could say, no, it's too rich for us.
Yeah, critical part to me would be at least approaching them now and explaining to them. I'm sure they know about this dilemma.
Mr. Rendon has talked with the owners of Allen Harbor and explained the problem that we're up against.
And the question is, are they winking at you when you say 20,000, or are they saying,
No,
heck no? You
I
know,
don't have if Mr. Rendon is here, he could tell me directly, but he hasn't been, I don't think they can say at this point whether they're going to have to do some calculations. Certainly, they have a year to do it. We, unfortunately, don't have a year to determine how we're going to
I
proceed.
mean, I think that business-wise for Allen Harbor Marine, it makes sense to use the parking lot, and it's made sense for
Yes.
us to years to do it.
And it's
It's
been
just-
beneficial to both of us,
Sure,
I
and the
believe.
states just happen to caught on to the fact that we're doing that, and the rules and regulations are getting a reimbursement. You know, they have to live by the rules and regulations, would change the numbers, you know, significantly. But I would ask also, you know, whichever way we decide to go here, and let's say we decided to go to the 50% reimbursement, how that might impact, because we're not gonna be able to do anything with this until town meeting as far as additional funding, right? So how that would impact the construction, I know we're gonna be doing the bulkhead, you know,
That's a separate item.
I understand.
Yes, sir.
But I mean, when you look at the projects involved in this number, you know, what would get done, what wouldn't, what would get delayed, et cetera, assuming you went with that scenario.
I think it's the parking lot, the bulkhead and that is fixed, and that it does not relate to the parking issue. So you could be comfortable in that. If you want to go to town meeting, well, we could tell the state that we're going to have parking there, and you roll the dice and see whether the voters would authorize the additional funding, which we would have to
We don't have any other
put.
way to do it, right?
What about the waterways fund that we set up? Is there any money in it?
Very
Improvements.
little money in it. It only is the, I think it's the boat excise tax, and that isn't a
No,
great
no,
deal
that
of money.
We had a new waterways
It was a revolving fund, or?
Yeah.
capital improvements fund,
Yeah, I don't think there's much, you know.
and money
That
is
also-
supposed to be going into
That
that.
would also have to be voted out at town meeting also.
I don't know the amount, but I can check.
Okay. There's one option.
There
Yes,
should-
it
there
is.
sh- There should be enough to cover it by the end of the year.
The 68.
Excuse me.
But the problem, of course, is that I believe this work is scheduled for the end of this year, or before May it's scheduled, is it not?
I thought it was after this season, the boats will be able to be stored in the current location. Our contract is then up with Allen Harbor. We would be rebidding it. I think they were going to start to do some work in the spring, although I don't know that was the,
Yeah.
I don't know that for a fact.
Because it
Well,
is an interesting issue that even if we increase or are able to negotiate an increase in the lease, that goes into the general fund.
Unless
which is
you
not the
change it.
debt, unless we have
Well,
do some doodly-do magic.
But the 50 or 60 some percent, we still have the same issue of having to get the money appropriated at town meeting.
You do.
Mr. Chair,
It-
last town meeting, we approved some level of money to do
Okay.
The bulkhead.
bulkhead. And this, whether it's 68 or 50% funding, our share of that is still unappropriated? Or was that going to be covered in the amount of money that we had approved at last town meeting for the bulkhead work?
I believe, Ed, that the money that we approved at last town meeting, if we were to take the larger state reimbursement, would pay for the whole project.
Okay.
We would not have to go back to generate additional funds. What is needed is to cover the reduction in fund, or the addition in funds. That 68,000 is what's, we don't have.
You have, in John Rendon's note to me, there was $250,000 that was appropriated for the main bulkhead, and this amount will be included towards the town share. the town would need an additional $68,500 in order to make the project whole at the 50% level.
And when do we have to tell the state which way we're going and/or put up our money?
Mr. Rendon told me that we needed to do this a month ago, but we just didn't have enough facts. So we have not signed the contract as of yet. So I would assume the state wishes us to do this fairly quickly, meaning this month.
Would you like to speak?
Please.
Craig LeBlanc, representing Allen Harbor Marine Service. One item that just came to mind as you're discussing the $68,000 difference. In the estimate for the entire project, there's a $60,000 figure for a concrete slab and drain system for boat washing. We have the same system right next door that we'd be willing to entertain working with the town to make that available. I assume that that was put in for commercial fishermen's use somewhere along the way. So that 60,000 may be able to be pulled out of this project if our up and running system right next door was able to be used by the town. You know, we'd be willing to work something out with that.
I,
Like that would be part of the lease.
Make it payment in kind type of
And
thing.
that's, what is it specifically? It's a
It's
washing?
it's the washdown area.
Concrete slab
Wash
and
down
drain
area.
system, it's on.
We
it's
could
on
make
this
that
list.
payment in kind type
On
of
the
thing,
spreadsheet.
we'd have it.
It actually gets us a little closer,
Concrete
Oh,
slab.
okay, gotcha.
No,
but still a problem.
But still, it's still a
Still a
problem.
problem.
So it'll be something.
What?
There you
All
go,
right,
it's all
so-
talking to each other.
What I think we need to do is we need to probably wait until our next meeting to check with John to see what.
And we can work on that. That's a
and-
great
and
suggestion.
Whatever else we can do. And because I think what the feeling is, we'd like to include the parking for Allen Harbor Marine.
We'd like to have our cake and eat it, too.
That's exactly what we're trying to do.
We have to just convince the state to.
And we've got to work that through.
Okay.
But the major problem is if the state decides they need an answer next Tuesday, we have to have a meeting before that
Right.
so we can.
I think we can stave them off. It's a holiday
could-
weekend. They'll wait.
You know,
They'll wait.
They've
you know,
already waited for weeks.
But all I'm saying is that we have to.
No, if there's an emergency, certainly we'll get right
We-
back to you and call that, and I can ask Mr. Rendon to work with
It's
Mr.
too bad that
LeBlanc
John
to
could not
see
be here
if we
today.
could do that. And that is a good idea. We could include that in the bid document that,
Yeah.
for those 3 years, the town has the right, and that would make the savings, and it certainly would,
Get us down to 38,000. Take half.
Yeah, but
well, if it's 60,000, it'd be down to 8,000.
8,000, yeah.
The state contributes half, so.
no.
No, I think
no.
the delta between the 50% and the 61.2 is the 68,000. So if I have a $68,000 delta and I've eliminated 60,000,
30.
then I've only got 8. So much more doable.
See, our town share is the 247, which we have appropriated at 250 or something.
Yes, sir.
So we have
that's-
35, we're
We need to argue that
35,000.
document is 68,000.
So-
Yeah, it's
So
35,000.
I think at this point, we need some more information to go forward.
That's a
Other-
great suggestion
you
that
have-
we
you
weren't
have a
aware of. I
suggestion?
wasn't aware of. Okay.
The issue, of course, is working that out with the commercial people, obviously. So.
We can do that.
Why don't we just,
It's not a problem. We have
Hold
some
this
direction,
for-
and that's good. Have some new information, which is even better.
okay?
And we can then recalculate, see what the new delta is and how we can control that.
And could we maybe put it early in the agenda so this gentleman doesn't have to sit here all night next week? Since he came tonight, I'm assuming he'd come next week.
That's probably a good idea.
I think our next meeting is the 21st, so.
There might
Are
be
we
another,
meeting next week?
Right.
might be another playoff game next
Maybe
week, which he
Tuesday.
wants to see.
I hope not.
We're going to meet Tuesday night, right?
Yeah, you.
It's up to you.
I hadn't planned on you meeting on Tuesday.
But
So we would
if you
skip,
think,
so we would skip the meeting for a week?
that's,
Wow, that's unusual.
do you want to do it or not? Why don't we go through the meeting and have a conversation about that?
Yeah, okay.
We good? Okay.
Thank you, Craig.
Are there any other questions at this time, or you will let it slide? So, all
No, we're going to let it
Okay.
go for
we
a
know where
week.
we're going.
right, thanks.
We keep it
Thanks for
same.
the offer.
Yeah, that's great.
Could we also have, as you think through it with Mr. Rendon, that you think about some funding sources?
For a lower number is much
I-
easier.
I also wouldn't want to go to town meeting and ask for these funds,
No,
you know?
oh, I don't know about, yeah.
I said, I wouldn't want to go to town meeting and ask for $68,000 in funds for a parking lot for the harbors. I personally think the budget situation is going to be pretty tough. And we already know that there's little free cash around. So I think it's going to be very hard to justify any expenditures next year.
I'll see what the harbor master comes back with. them.
But also when having very little free cash and knowing our appetite for projects
Right.
and equipment and everything else, it'll be that 7% increasing the budget is actually going to go up if we have all kinds of capital exclusions and et cetera, for new dump trucks and all that good stuff.
Right.
So that number's only going to go up.
Makes for a smaller warrant.
Might make for a smaller warrant. That would be a good thing.
Okay.
Okay. Town administrators report.
The updates that I have for you, one was on the solar panel. The solar panels are on my list. Every other week, I'm calling my new best friend, Ms. Argo, to get an update. This morning, when I talked with her, she indicated to me that, said, well, there's some new paperwork for the financing for ACE Construction, I guess is the name of the company that's installing these things. So, I guess my first question is how I'm learning about this today. What's happened, I guess, is that the financing companies have asked for some changes in language, and now that all has gone to town council, Copeland and Page, and I contacted Copeland and Page to see if they got this stuff, because I have not seen it. Mr. Giorgio said he had received it. I also told him that should be high on his list. My understanding from Ms. Argo is that because all of the towns in this first tier of solar panels must go through this, that the construction will start based upon who gets it through their council and signed by the Board of Selectmen first. So I suggested to him, he said it's going to take a while. I said, well, I know next week is maybe not possible, but I need it before the 21st so that the Board of Selectmen can sign this material on the 21st, and so we can get in line. If we do get in line, then the construction starts on November 4th. I also confirmed with Ms. Argo that the town of Harwich is in no way delaying the process through a building permit issue. She had a question on that, and because I guess she wasn't clear on what my position was, she asked me to talk with the construction manager at ACE. And I did, and I also confirmed with Mr. Larson that there is no delay. He is prepared to issue any type of extension of the temporary permit he has already issued. The final permit would not be issued until we resolve the issue of decommissioning. But that does not hold up any work on this project. And the town planner is in tune to that, because that was a restriction by the planning board. Town council is already reviewing the appropriate documentation on the decommissioning. So there is no delay on our part, and we will work expeditiously to get this other wording, whatever it is, resolved.
Linda?
Are we all going to be over at the transfer station with screwdrivers on December 31st? kind
Well-
of putting these things together to make the deadline for the taxes and all that?
I suggest you may wish to go to a toy store and look at erector sets
Erector
and how
sets and-
they are put together. It seems to be coming together, but I know it's a priority of the board, so I'm on top of it as much as I can be to make sure that our end is active and going forward. And whatever we need to do, we will do to make this happen.
Do we have any idea when NSTAR will do their construction?
No, but you did sign the authorization tonight that is going out tomorrow morning.
For the polls?
For the polls, which I am assuming is for the transfer, whatever, the transfer switches, transformers, whatever it is.
Interconnect.
Yes, sir,
The interconnect,
better put.
yeah.
But I also know that the payments have been made by ACE to NSTAR for a large amount. So I'm assuming that's going to be going forward quickly. So that's where we are on that. On the flu clinic, just to finalize, I put a note in your Dropbox that I guess there was some issue last year regarding town employees volunteering to work at the flu clinic. So I'm prepared to allow it on town time as long as the offices aren't closed. But I was told that the board or somebody in town had an issue with that, and so I want to make sure before I go ahead, we're all set. Done? Done. I did give you a memo on what my opinion is on your real estate council issue.
Yes.
And if you're agreed, I will talk with Mr. Giorgio. That's my only concern about the cost. It is on a real estate attorney. Many times you need to see them, or I need to talk with them. And a lot of times you need the maps. You can't do it over the phone. So if we're going to use a compliment page, I want to make sure that they're clear that there maybe needs to be someone down here that we can deal with.
Have you ever tried GoToMeeting?
To what?
Have you ever tried GoToMeeting?
Oh, no, but that is a
You
that
can
is a
share maps.
possibility.
You can share maps?
Yep.
Along with other things?
I'm assuming they'll be accommodating to us. If not, I might have another
We'll look again.
recommendation to you, but I think that's an important issue.
I think the consensus is to go
Yes,
forward.
so I will. Thank you.
You're done? Any
Yes, sir.
questions?
No.
Town, Selectmen's report, let me start. In your packets is a town administrator recruitment process set of dates. This is the November 1st interview date. All this is a revised, changing the dates to match when everybody theoretically is available. You should know that while this is going on, our interview committee is meeting on Friday from, I think, 9 to 3 or 10 to 3 to go through some 51 resumes that they've collected. They are aware of the dates that they're required to perform on. And by the way, Mark will be joining them on Friday. If this is okay with everybody, Linda?
Going to make a suggestion here. If we interview these people on November 1st, it's a public interview, and then we decide to make, say, a job offer that we decide that we don't need a second interview or somebody to come back a second time, should you not have their, include the words contract negotiations required, the November 12th phrasing, stick it up there to make sure that we post for an executive session and
Well,
make sure,
What I'm going to suggest.
just to give us the wiggle room or the ability to do that on the 1st if we decide one of those people we like.
I'm absolutely in agreement with you, except what I think is we should know several days before we interview the nature of our candidates. And the nature may change how we handle the offer. If the candidate is from Ohio, there probably needs to be either a transportation piece in there. There may have to be
Time.
something else,
Understand.
okay?
Understand. I'm just suggesting that if on November 1st, when we do the public interviews, and we decide that we'd like to make a job offer to one of them,
Yes.
we should have the same phrasing there that says, you know, if needed, contract negotiations will happen, blah, 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 to make sure that we're available. Because the way this reads, we're going to have interviews on November 1st, and we won't even start contract negotiations until 10 days later.
No.
So
Look
I
up-
would,
Look at the 28th, the last paragraph.
what,
Con-
October?
Well, it says we're going to have the contracts in hand prior, and we're going to post a meeting after the interviews for the subcommittee to deal with the contract.
Okay, so on October 28th,
We
we'll
have
have the
to have everything-
subcommittee, then you'll have the executive session there, then we'll have this, but we're still saying that we're going to not start negotiations with the individual person until 10 days after November 1st. That's the point.
Well, okay, but I think the implication here is that on November 1st, at
Yeah.
the end of interviewing 3 candidates or whatever, I'm assuming we'll have a discussion about what
Yeah.
did we just see in here,
And then if we
and we'll say
decide,
if candidate number 7 is the right, the one we really want to chase, and we start the process.
Yeah.
Okay.
and what we should have before that, because you'd asked for it, before we get to that point, we're going to have the contracts that we've gone over before, we'll bring them back
Be
up
prepared, yeah.
and
Okay.
take a look at them and make sure they're right,
I cave.
okay?
I don't know if I agree, but I cave.
So, if I understand this correctly, we do the 3 interviews the afternoon of the 1st, and then we make a decision?
We could make it.
If
We could
possible.
make a decision.
Okay. If we choose not to, what happens?
Well, then we have to have an interview on the 12th, because that's the first.
No. If we
Well, we don't like it.
interview them and they say, we'd like to think about them for a day before having the discussion.
I think we might have one day, and that's it, quite frankly. Because,
Because personally, I would like, I'm very uncomfortable, because after you do 3 people, it takes a while to, again, back up and sort people out, and it's at least for me,
So
to,
November 2nd, Saturday, you post a meeting for 9 AM.
that's the last time we can do it. It's either November 2nd or November 12th.
why is that?
Because
I'm on
Peter's
an
not.
airplane on the 3rd until when am I coming back, Dana? You'll know. 7th or something, I don't know what it is.
Well, we post a meeting for the next day. At least will give us a night.
You know?
If we
Well, the
want,
only problem with doing that, gentlemen, is by then,
Ladies.
and ladies, I'm sorry. Actually, I wasn't talking to you, I was talking to them.
You're gonna buy that.
no, I'm not going to buy that
The-
at all.
The problem we have is, if we see 3 people and we think one of them is appropriate and we have our discussion, if we don't make an offer or sit down with them then, we will lose them from that evening, because they will then depart. And then we will meet on the next day, and then we will have to start whatever negotiations we want.
I think the key is
So?
to get as much background information as we can
Yeah, that,
before the interview, so we know what questions we want to ask.
Well-
We get some
Yeah,
sense.
but a lot of the questions that you may have and the background you may want to search for, you don't really know you want until you've actually had some contact, with the individuals.
Well, I guess I would say that we're going to get the resumes on the 28th, and that's really when we have to do whatever searches we want to do. Because if Peter's gone for a couple of days, gone within, what'd you say, November 3rd you're leaving? Then we really can't be waiting 2 or 3, 4 days to do searches, because then that leaves out one of our members to actually in that discussion, and that doesn't seem
Well,
appropriate.
I can always call in, but that's not quite the same.
And it's not quite the same, and it hasn't really worked that well.
But
We
I have no
actually-
problem meeting on the 2nd.
we actually have the information on the 24th. We will have in our packets, which is the Thursday before the 28th, we will have the recommendations of the search committee.
Will we have it, because the last time,
I know,
we
but,
didn't have that until they actually presented here, the 3 names.
well,
Will
I
that
think,
happen
I
there?
think we will have to ask for it.
Okay. And the
I see-
resumes, et
I
cetera.
see no other way of doing it. And then you can call whomever you want. and you have 3 people to deal with. And that gives you another 3 or 4 days. The problem is we keep on moving this because of our collective not being here, that's all. I don't know how else to do it, Ed, you know?
So we post a meeting for November 2nd in the morning.
do
If we
that.
need, if Ed feels like he needs a day to kind of go home and sit and think and cogitate, then we meet the next morning at 9
And
for an
go
hour.
online and get on the phone and do all of those sorts of things,
But we are running out of time.
you know?
What I'm suggesting is that you start that on the 24th or 25th.
Yep.
Okay.
Because you're gonna know where the people are from and what they're doing. Yes, it's some extra phone calls. But it should help you with your decision. Sorry. I would love to have this all moved up, but that's, unfortunately, doesn't work that way. That's all I have. Anyone else?
No.
No.
No, we just need to decide if we're gonna meet next Tuesday, or what are we
Oh,
doing?
I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
There's a holiday on Monday, so the choice we have is either to meet next Tuesday.
Which is the
15th or something?
The 14th is the holiday, Monday.
15th.
15th,
Okay.
or,
Well, I'd prefer to, because the following Monday, I'm going to not be here.
I'm not gonna be here on the 15th. So, whatever. You can run the
It
meeting.
does sound like, though, that the Allen Harbor thing is sort of timely, and we should at least.
Probably.
I'll find out.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was that critical when I talked to, it was critical, had to be done this month, but that's why I have nothing, I don't have any committees scheduled for the 15th. People were away, there was a problem in scheduling people, so I said, well, then let's just not do it.
on Tuesday? Are you
Oh,
available?
I can, I can be here if that's what you wish.
Suggest we meet
you
as
know.
long as we can get Allen Harbor
Yeah.
topic on,
Okay.
in front
I
of
think that would be the key thing, because that
Ed,
seems
will
like the
you
most.
handle the agenda
Sure.
Wednesday?
So it may just be short.
Yeah. it will
Okay,
be
I'll
very
find out
long.
if Allen Harbor is critical, we need to get that done, if John can get some of the ducks in a row.
And more
Okay.
than likely, they have the staff scheduled presentations by various committees
No,
for that day. No?
not for the 15th, no.
Oh.
Because we were having trouble because it's the day after a holiday and some people weren't available, so
Oh.
I said, I'm not going to try to put one on, it's just not worth it. So I said, forget it, we'll do something 21st.
Mr. Chair, since you're not here next week, the best we'll do is get a budget message 2 weeks from now.
What-
Right.
The revision, you have a budget message,
Yeah,
it's
okay,
just the
yeah,
revision.
yeah.
Not necessarily.
Yeah. Well, you know.
If I can get
You can get it done.
if I can get something put together by Thursday,
Yeah. then we
and,
can-
or I'll hand it to,
Yeah.
And then Linda and
That's a
I
good
can
idea.
vote 2 on keeping the, can we get a tie vote on keeping the underwriting? This is a strategy.
we're not gonna do it for 2 weeks.
Then Ed won't be here. This
So
is
it's
good.
still
Ed
2 to
won't be
2.
here. Still 2 to 2.
We're on a roll.
Pass. This is good.
Yeah, no,
We're
right.
getting worried now.
I don't care. I really don't care at this point.
But honestly, it never occurred to me when we were making the plans that there wouldn't have been a meeting on the Tuesday, you know.
Yeah, we don't, we usually just hold it on the Tuesday.
Yeah.
We usually
Well,
don't
I
skip.
like the idea.
Well, sometimes the problem staff runs into, you meet every week and you can't get anything done. There is no progress made because what we do is, starting Tuesday, Wednesday, half of Thursday, we're trying to clean up all this stuff from Tuesday night, and then we have to have the agenda done by Wednesday morning. So we're overlapping and
So
we don't
let's
make a lot
keep
of
it really,
progress,
keep it
which is
really-
not good. I mean,
Keep
you
it
know,
really short.
and you need
Allen
to think
Harbor,
about,
do
that's
all-
why I had,
Do
sug-
only Allen Harbor then next
Well,
week.
what you're saying is,
well, that's why I
if
suggested,
if you need Allen Harbor, you call it. If you
Okay.
don't need Allen Harbor,
Okay.
you don't call it.
Yeah.
that's why I suggested maybe you should think about
But let
3
us know
nights
either
with one.
way.
Yeah,
You will
let us
know.
know, so we know what we're doing.
Wednesday morning, and we'll see if there's.
Dana?
enough.
Okay.
I'll be here.
And-
Great, thank you.
And Ed, if you would write
Red
your
Sox?
notes on the
Red Sox?
budget
Red Sox are up?
thing. And if you can get it to me
Oh, 3-3, I thought you said
tomorrow,
4.
so I can
Okay.
get it to everybody. I'll try and make everybody's change, I have your changes. And,
I'll see if I can write on that sentence, which I
Okay.
just don't like.
okay,
I had that one I was trying to change.
yeah,
I can send you my,
just send me
This one, right,
send me the
this
changes.
sentence right here.
Okay?
I changed it.
Then we're done.
I'll send it
At this point, I
I
yield.
move we adjourn. Enjoy your vacation, if you're going on vacation.
Yeah, it's one.
Okay.
All right.
All in favor?
Motion to adjourn.
Aye.
Did it.
Non-debatable.
3-3, so